Soft quitting.
Soft quitting sounds
Not
rude.
only, what are we on? The 16th of January and already we've got a new term knocking around. Apparently soft quitting is new and it's worse than quiet quitting, and that was a disaster. So yeah, there's a lot of jargon flying around, but that's what we're here for, to get to the bottom of it. And fun fact, actually, that's how Truth, Lies and Work started, because I was really irritated by the whole quiet quitting thing going on. Anyway, side note, what is soft quitting? Al, any ideas?
Soft quitting, well, Steve, quiet quitting is you just disengaging, not doing it. Rage quitting is when you're angry and you quit. So soft quitting, maybe, is it going to find another job before you quit your first one?
That's called career cushioning.
Oh.
We have that's another term. I almost swore then. I promised I wouldn't in 2025. Anyway.
See how long that lasts.
So yes, soft quitting. Well, according to Dr. Diane Hamilton, who is a business administration PhD, curiosity expert and thought leader on the Thinkers 50 radar, soft quitting is when people disengage emotionally from their job. So it's not a loud, obvious rage quitting type of way, Al, where you throw your sandwich across the break room and go, I've had enough. It's much more subtle. Unlike quiet quitting, which, if you can't remember, quiet quitting is when someone does the bare minimum that they're contracted to do, which actually just sounds like they're doing the work they're contracted to do, but whatever, apparently people had beef with it. It's not like that. Soft quitting is much harder to spot. So it shows up as small changes, like when someone who has been full of ideas now gives lukewarm responses or avoiding extra effort. So the article says on the surface, they're still meeting expectations, but their enthusiasm and connection to the job have disappeared. So Dr. Hamilton goes on to say that soft quitting is actually worse for business. Why? Well, because quiet quitting is visible. You can address it by resetting expectations, perhaps, or clarifying roles. But with soft quitting, the signs are easy to miss until it is too late. So over time, this disengagement quietly erodes team morale, productivity, and even innovation. Dr. Hamilton goes on to say that soft quitting often stems from employees feeling disconnected from their roles, their team, or even their company's mission. And when one person checks out emotionally, it can ripple through the organisation, creating a culture of low energy and disengagement. The article does go on to suggest that to combat soft quitting, leaders need to focus on fostering emotional connection and purpose in the workplace. Al, thoughts?
So soft quitting is when someone stops putting their all in. Is that what we're saying?
No, that's more quiet quitting. So it's not you. So quiet quitting is like that people stop going the extra mile, just do what they're contracted to do. Soft quitting is that they do their job, and you might even see them continue to go the extra mile in some circumstances, but their heart's not in it.
Oh, so I see. So their heart's not in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's difficult because come January, February time, when it's a bit of a depressing time of the year for everyone anyway, I can see people might be mistaking just general malaise and just boredom of January, February with actually soft quitting. Right, being honest, I don't think the world needs another catchphrase. I don't think we need yet another way. We just basically say either employees are happy or they're not. There are obviously scales in there, and I'm not a psychologist, full disclosure. You knew that. But I don't know. It just feels like it's another phrase that someone wanted to appear in Forbes, and so they've made up a phrase. Is that unfair?
No offence to you, Dr. Hamilton.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Hamilton. Yes, sorry. Not you. I meant all the... You sound like all the people.
Yeah, the media are looking for these types of terms, right? So as experts, you have to speak to them, you comment on them. Maybe you coined it. I'm not sure if that was clear in the article. But I think the thing that gets me, and this is as a psychologist, from the point of view of a psychologist, is that this isn't a new term. What we're still talking about is disengagement, employee disengagement, which is a well-researched, very understood workplace phenomenon that is a big issue and has been for decades. So bringing in a new term, soft quitting, to explain it, fine, but I feel like we don't always need to reinvent the wheel. And actually, if we took the time to understand the actual science behind it, we might actually start to solve some of the systemic problems that mean that these things are still being talked about. I mean, soft quitting, when was quiet quitting? 2022? Mm-hmm. 2020 for 3 years on? So I'm not sure. I understand that the new terms, you might think, well, if it's more understandable to the layperson, we'll be more inclined to engage with it and do something about it. Well, I'd argue clearly not. If 3 years on, we're still finding new ways of talking about employee disengagement. The other thing I'd say as well is that when I was reading the article, I was struggling, and again, this is from a
difficult for you to say.
This is from a psychologist's perspective, where I want kind of the data to make sure we're talking about the right thing, like we're validated. Do you know what I mean? So we're talking about what we're actually talking about. And I was reading this and I was like, we're actually talking about burnout here, because the article says their enthusiasm fades, a bit of exhaustion, their curiosity dwindles, cynicism. Why be curious and change things? It ain't going to change anyway. And their emotional connection from their work diminishes, and that's the third symptom of burnout. So it's kind of like, well, is that all we're really talking about? So rather than people kind of being in a point of where they're doing the bare minimum, they're just actually experiencing early stages of burnout, so trying to emotionally disconnect themselves from a point of view of survival. So I don't know if I agree that soft quitting is a useful term. I think we already have understandable terms out there to talk about what this article is talking about, which is employees not being connected to the reason of the organisation or their role. And that is really important. That's super, super important. In employee engagement and in our model of employee engagement, the RX7, our first two foundations are reason and role, because that's what you need to get right first. What is the mission that the organisation wants to deliver? How do we present that in a way that our employees engage with it and get behind it? How does it align with their own individual values as well? And then role, how does my personal role, my personal contribution drive this mission forward? So yeah, reason and role, absolutely fundamental in terms of employee engagement. Do we need to throw another term in the mix to understand that? I'm not sure.
I agree. I think that, like I said before, this is not Dr. Hamilton, this is not you, but I think a lot of people do just come up with these ideas of going, oh, well, we're going to come up with a new word because then I can be the expert in that, or I can get an article in it. Look, it boils down to this. Either your people are happy or they're not. There's scales in between, but if they're not, it doesn't matter what you call it. You need to be doing something about it. You need to be calling this woman over here. You need to be calling this woman because that's Leanne, by the way. I don't know whether you know where the camera angles are. You need to be calling this woman because she will fix it for you.